this year will be a year of growth and inclusion, and that this year will ultimately be about critically and creatively engaging with the issues which affect all of us.
The tragic murder of Eve Carson, a true crime case. The front door stood wide open at 4:30 in the morning, lights still blazing inside. Eve Carson's roommates knew immediately something was wrong. Just 3 hours earlier, they'd left her studying at her desk, promising she'd catch up on sleep instead of joining them at a party. Now she was gone, along with her car, and nothing about it made sense. Born in Athens, Georgia on November 19, 1985, Eve Carson seemed to pack 3 lifetimes into her 22 years. During high school, while most teenagers struggled with homework and social drama, Eve juggled roles as student council vice president, nursing home volunteer, congressional page, and stem cell research assistant. This wasn't about padding a college application. She genuinely wanted to make a difference everywhere she could. At the University of North Carolina, she doubled down on her ambitions, pursuing political science and biology, while becoming a campus leader everyone knew and respected. A prestigious scholarship confirmed what was already obvious. Eve was exceptional. Between classes, she taught science at a local elementary school, breaking down complex ideas into language kids could understand. Her summers took her to Ecuador's medical clinics. Her semesters included studying in Cuba, and research projects brought her to Egypt. She wasn't just preparing for a career, she was already living one. By February 2008, everything was falling into place. At 22, Eve had a job offer from a major company and was weeks away from graduation. Her future seemed certain.
March 5th started like any Wednesday. At 1:30 a.m., while her roommates got ready for a party, Eve chose to stay home and study. They left her surrounded by textbooks and notes, focused on her upcoming classes. When they returned at 4:30, the scene that greeted them made no sense. Door wide open, lights on, Eve and her car both gone. They called her phone repeatedly, no answer. They told themselves maybe something urgent had come up. Maybe she'd had to leave suddenly. But by the next day, with Eve still missing, one friend contacted the police. The investigators' response chilled them. Earlier that morning, around 5 a.m., they'd found a young woman's body about a mile from Eve's house. A neighbor had called 911 after hearing gunshots and a scream. The victim had no identification, but when police showed Eve's friend a photo, she recognized her immediately. The investigation moved quickly. Eve's computer showed she'd been working until 3:30 a.m., 2 full hours after her friends left. Her phone's last signal came from a highway cell tower outside town before going dark, probably thrown away somewhere in the woods. The killer's greed gave them away. Just 18 minutes after Eve's computer went quiet, someone withdrew $700 from her account at an ATM across town. Security footage showed a man in Eve's car with another person in the back seat, possibly Eve herself, though the image was too blurry to confirm. They tried to withdraw more money, but hit the daily limit. The withdrawals continued across the city. On March 7th, when a convenience store ATM rejected another attempt, cameras caught a different person using the card. Now investigators had 2 suspects to identify. Closing in, police released the security footage to the media, hoping someone would recognize the suspects. Tips poured in, but the breakthrough came March 12th, when an anonymous caller identified one man as Demario Atwater. Atwater, just 21, already had a long criminal record. Robbery, assault, drugs, weapons charges. Despite multiple arrests, he'd been released early several times. He was actually due in court 2 days after Eve's murder for a probation violation involving a handgun. His old mugshots matched the convenience store footage perfectly. Phone records showed Atwater frequently called 17-year-old Lawrence Levette, who had his own criminal history despite his age. Levette's face matched the driver from the first ATM footage. While Atwater came quietly when arrested, Levette barricaded himself in his home, requiring a SWAT team to bring him in. Cell tower data placed both their phones in Eve's neighborhood that night, far from where they lived.
Investigators believed they'd gone out looking for someone to rob, saw Eve alone through her window, and decided she was an easy target. Facing a potential death sentence, DeMario took a plea deal and confessed. He said he and Livette went out that night planning to rob someone for quick cash. Driving through the university area, they spotted Eve studying through her window. They broke in with guns, forced her into her car, and drove to multiple ATMs trying to get as much money as possible. Eve begged them to let her go, promising she wouldn't tell anyone, but they'd already decided to kill her because she'd seen their faces, even though they'd never tried to hide them. They drove her to a deserted street and shot her multiple times with 2 different guns. The detail that haunted everyone. Just before they killed her, Eve asked if they would pray with her. They shot her anyway. In April 2010, DeMario received life in prison plus 30 years. After his sentencing, he turned to Eve's parents and apologized, saying he deserved his punishment. Livette went to trial in December 2011 and got life without parole, but in 2013, an appeals court overturned his sentence, ruling that life without parole was too harsh for someone who committed crimes as a minor. At his new trial, Livette claimed everyone makes mistakes and insisted he wasn't a monster. The judge disagreed and gave him life again.
There was another disturbing connection. Livette was also suspected in a similar murder from January 2008, where a 29-year-old student was killed in his apartment and money was withdrawn from his accounts. But prosecutors couldn't prove the connection and dropped the charges. After Eve's death changed North Carolina law. Legislators passed tougher penalties for gang-related crimes, directly inspired by her case. The law took effect December 1st, 2009. At her university, they established a scholarship in her name and created a memorial garden. In February 2009, one of Eve's close friends made it to the finals of American Idol. He said Eve's death pushed him to audition, that without losing her, he never would have found the courage to pursue his dreams. Eve Carson's murder forces us to confront hard truths. 2 young men with extensive criminal records kept getting released early until they committed murder. A brilliant student with everything ahead of her was killed for $700. A system designed to rehabilitate instead returned dangerous people to the streets. How many other Eve Carsons are out there right now, studying late at night, unaware of the dangers? How many DeMario Atwaters and Lawrence Livettes are one early release away from destroying lives? We can honor Eve's memory through action, supporting criminal justice reform that actually protects communities, improving campus safety, and funding programs that break cycles of violence before they claim more victims. Her story ended that March morning, but what we do next, that's still being written.